And it looks like we're off.
Yep, 50 rupees inside of Link's house, and both of them are already heading towards, looks like the uncle. Interesting to note, neither of them picked up the sign, which is a quick way to kill one of these guards. Instead, looks like opting for the bush to do a tree pull from Mikan, while SevenS1ns is heading straight inside.
Yeah, he might be planning to do Sanctuary and then the northern route regardless, so he might save his tree pull for then.
Yep, some people like to do it with Uncle, since it's a quick 2 items here, where we have Bombos already.
Now that can be big because it can sometimes be a little trolly in that mini Moldorm cave, and that Bombos can make it pretty easy.
Yep, so long as they find a sword. Fun fact about the medallions, need a sword to use them. We have red goop inside a sanctuary. And SevenS1ns is giving us that lovely cannot use item error as he spams the action button there.
Ooh, the 8 bombs. That RNG.
Yep, the dancing green jellies there have a nice drop in that item pool.
Ooh, Mikan did not get the same result.
No, surprisingly enough. Picking up a few more rupees than Seven did from the crab. Okay, we've got a shovel out of the forest while SevenS1ns is dropping down to the thief. Looks like both runners and the bow. Oh my.
Ooh, early bow. Something more and more common in V26. I remember back in like V22, that was always your last item.
Yeah, V26, the bow, you either get it early or you get it late. If it's late, good luck finding it. But both runners seem to be taking the same path here at this point, so we'll be seeing a full clear Kakariko, a library check, and a race trek. And curious to see what the village pulls up today.
Yep, this is definitely a big stage in the early game because the items that you find here will cause a lot of route divergence with people deciding, oh, I got the gloves, I can go up to Death Mountain, or I got the Moon Pearl, I'm going to fake flipper to Zora and the waterfall.
Yep, and Bombos Medallion is usable. Mikan finds the sword in the back of the inn, the lack of bombs driving them to the south side of Kakariko first. So meanwhile, SevenS1ns has pulled the Can of Samara out of Blind's Hut already, so we have a fair bit of versatility between the two runners from what they've discovered already. Another bottle of green goo there from the well, while Seven picks up a few rupees for another piece of heart in the back. They definitely have a lot of options available to them, though, in terms of another sword. So we have 2 swords and a glove in Kakariko. Wow.
Now, with early Master Sword, however, it's got to be making these runners start to think about Aghanim, which no one wants to do, but they still got the lamp before they got to make that decision.
Yep, and with the power gloves already available, the lamp means that they will be able to have that Death Mountain access if it starts railroading them towards Aghanim. So we won't know if Ag is required just yet, but this is a front-heavy seed so far in terms of items. So it looks like SevenS1ns is just now finishing up. He's going to find his Master Sword and then head south out of the village, while Mikan's doing his last item check in the north of the town. And we'll have to see what comes up next.
So me personally, I like an early red cane because it has some uses. But it also is a progression item that you need, but you don't need immediately. So it doesn't open the whole world for you, but you're also not looking for it when the whole world is open to you.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, I admit I'd love to see Bombos used in the Mini Moldorn Cave. The red cane, due to the fact that you can hit an enemy with it and then break the block for another hit, is useful. Although with Master Sword and Sword Beams, I imagine we won't be seeing anything too crazy from Moldorns. Well, SevenS1ns pulls up 20 rupees out the ground, says no thanks, moves on along. Mikan does his library check, and we won't be seeing that building again. So it looks like instead of saving and quitting, thanks to the gloves, Seven is just making his way over to the dam. Pretty smart routing.
Yeah, I've always thought about this, whether it's faster just to walk over or to save and quit. And now after watching it, I think he's got the right idea.
Oh yeah, definitely. Whenever you get that early shovel, it's a pretty smart move in the first place to head south and, check out the grove. But with those gloves, you don't have to run around, so it is a bit quicker. And not much out of the chest there. Nice shovel use on the ground. Curious to see what's in the water today.
All right, SevenS1ns getting a full heart container from the dam. He's probably pretty happy to see that because these crabs coming up will do 2 hearts of damage with green mail, and it is pretty easy to die after leaving this Moldorm cave.
Oh yeah, with the Master Sword and Sword Beams, or at least SevenS1ns has it, you can see how quickly he makes work of the Moldorns here with it. It's not too big of an issue, but anytime you get that front load of utility and attack items, you lose health as a result. So it'll be fun to see if this is a low health seed, and there's the lamp, and a blue boomerang.
SevenS1ns opting to skip Ice Cave and maybe going to go up to Death Mountain, I think.
My guess is he's going to head right first to get those 3 items out the back of Escape. Some people like to head to Ice Cave and then follow it up with a Fake Flipper, but with the fact that he already has the lift, he has the lamp, it just makes more sense for raw items to hit as many spots as he can in as short a time as possible. So we have Mikan lagging just a little bit behind, and SevenS1ns finding health, but not much else of value in the back. With that small key, it looks like he is backtracking in the dark. And both runners do have arrows now to put that bow to use if they choose to. So, I just missed the map check by Mikan. Let's see what he has. Did you catch what the dungeons were in the light world there, Cobb? Mikan was pretty quick on that map check.
I did not. I was actually seeing what SevenS1ns was finding, which he just found a little shield.
Yeah, well, thankfully, Jighart, who is tracking for us, has us that Eastern, all 3 are crystals, with Desert Palace being 5 and 6. So, it's already looking like it may be a relatively quick seed, depending on which Dark World.
Ooh.
Fire Rod and Ice Cave. Holy cow.
All right, so SevenS1ns decided to skip that, and without Flute or Boots, it's going to be a long time before he returns there.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see how long SevenS1ns puts it off, because that is a very crucial item in a location that in a lot of versions people will tend to pass up, but he finds the flute and escape instead.
Okay, maybe it won't be too long before he goes back.
Yeah, I was literally about to say that most people put off Ice Rod Cave until they either have the boots or they have the flute. Simply because it is a bit out of the way. But he has the flute, and I imagine once he finishes up the trip down to the cell, he'll probably go activate it. So it's looking more and more like if an Agus 1 fight is required, it'll be pretty trolly to hit that point. Sequence break for Mikan, pulling out just a piece of heart, and for a moment there I thought he was going to try the fake flipper out, but instead he saves and quits. So it looks like he'll be following in SevenS1ns' footsteps here of checking the back part of escape. Well, now comes that bow making short work of the chain and ball guard.
So if you are these runners, which 3 dungeons do you want to see as the pendant dungeons?
I would definitely say you do not want to see Turtle Rock as a pendant, or as a crystal. Given that they already have the red cane, Mire as a crystal is not all that terrible, since they have the flute available as well, and the Titans are forced. So I would say Turtle Rock, Swamp pendant would be great, and a pod pendant would be great.
I would have to agree with you, with the exception of Pod. I think I would not want Pod for the only reason that they already have the bow. If they didn't have the bow, yeah, I don't want to go into Pod either. It's a long dungeon to check the whole thing.
Yeah, if you can skip Pod entirely, because you require that big key, and it can be buried, being able to forego the dungeon entirely can save more time than doing Mire as a crystal. And SevenS1ns is going for the old man, immediately taking advantage of the flute to head up to Death Mountain. We have Mal saying, doesn't even feel relief at Pendant Turtle Rock anymore. Very true, because this dungeon loves sending you into pendant dungeons, or this logic loves sending you into pendant dungeons to collect required items anyway.
Sure does. With V26, it seems like there's more of a shift from let's route everything in the overworld together to, oh, I'm near a dungeon I can do, let's jump in and find some items.
Oh yeah. And SevenS1ns gets a tunic from the old man. So looks like when Mikan heads up there, he'll be getting his change of clothes from his clone. But yes, this dungeon, nowadays, it's more an item in the overworld that will troll you than an item in a dungeon. Nope, Skull Woods is the green pendant. So while the fire rod is... Oh, wow. There's silvers. Bow and silvers, 14 minutes, 40 seconds in.
So, in my opinion, Skullwoods being a a pendant is not a horrible thing, because if you're gonna have to check pendant dungeons, it's a pretty quick one to check.
Yeah, very true. And Skull Woods is one of those dungeons you just cannot ignore anymore in this logic. I believe the math between all the item locations is there is a 40-something% chance for a progression item. So even if it's a pendant, an early Skull Woods dip usually pays out well anyway. Yep. And did Mikan skip Sarashla, or did we just not notice he picked up his silvers from there as well? I can't tell with his icon since he already has the bow.
I do not believe that he skips Astra.
Yeah, I don't think so either. So, and again, we have runners mostly following in the footsteps of each other. SevenS1ns is just a smidgen ahead in terms of his item checks due to Mikan heading to the Ice Rod Cave where Fire Rod is, and also the Fake Flipper. Yeah, we're not exactly sure if he skipped it or not because we were looking at SevenS1ns at the moment. If he did skip checking Sarashla before going into Eastern, that would definitely hurt a little bit just because the silvers are that one shot. Yeah, Jig, that's what we're waiting on as well. See 7 putting that bow to use for going the pots and just shooting them instead. That's a fun little room to learn and get down. Looks like both of these runners made no problem of it.
Yeah, that sure is a fun room. So it's there's certain tiles in there that activate enemies, and if you know which tiles you can step on and which ones you can't, you can whittle 4 down to 2 pretty easily.
Yep, and Mikan pulled the Titan's mitts out of that far eastern chest in Eastern Palace. So we already have the mitts. We don't have a pearl yet. So Dark World access is not a sure thing yet. We have the flute. There's no mirror yet. But this seed is looking like Aga 1 is a long shot at this point. So SevenS1ns going to get his mitts right here. And what's really fun is whenever you have this much access this early, especially if they find the pearl, it becomes a choice of where do you go first, and we may actually start seeing some divergence between these two.
Absolutely, which, you know, is the way that the open seeds tend to happen. You see some early divergence, not so much here, but in a lot of seeds you see some early divergence, but then they kind of come back together in the things they've done until they find Dark World access, and then it's anybody's game.
Oh yeah. So Talia, the first 15 minutes, or nearing 20 at this point, have been quite packed. As you can see by the item tracker, they have a lot of items. Not so much on the health, but that doesn't seem to be a problem for either of these runners. And they've checked most of the locations, but they have so much still open to them. Yeah, Quark. They do have a few places left. I believe SevenS1ns has gotten more of the overworld checked at this point. He has Agana, Zora, and actually, I believe Inside the Spectacle Rock left to check at this point. So it could be an Aga required despite this massive amount of items they've gotten. There we go, Mikan gets his flute. 7 also has the Ice Rod Cave to check, which is where the Fire Rod is. He finds 20 rupees on Desert Ledge.
And if this does turn out, if he doesn't find anything here, 7 sins, the fact that it might just be an Aghanim seed may actually work out to his advantage, because it's going to lead him to that ice cave before he goes and does Aghanim.
Yep. Matter of fact, that may be his next location. He does. Both of them have the money for Zora now, so that's nice. There's the flippers. Let's see if he goes to Ice Rod or if he follows the flippers straight to Zora. No, he's heading up to the mountain right now.
I think he was just going to get some help. Yeah, there we go. Okay.
That's true. The mountain cave is the quickest location to fill up on health and get outside. Sanctuary is a bit of a walk. And nice little shortcut that probably saves a second or so. At most.
Sure does, but we have seen multiple times where that second is the difference between winning and losing.
Oh yeah, definitely. We have Mikan going to activate his flute now, which will lead him up to Death Mountain, I imagine, for his green or blue tunic, while SevenS1ns pulls out the fire rod and probably is doing the math and realizes it's Zora or bust. Now with the flippers, they also have the waterfall cave available to them. So they have 4 chances, if my math is correct on 7 sins, for it to not be Aghanim required, because the hobo is going to pull up a whole lot of nothing for SevenS1ns whenever he does his check. Talia, I don't remember the exact item at Lumberjack, but it is not an essential one. I don't remember if it was rupees or a piece of heart. I don't believe it was essential, though. Yep, Quirk, it's Zora and Waterfall, or to Aghanim. But even then, with how much they've gotten, an Aga required seed would not be all that devastating at this point. Okay, and it's a rupee that's inside the Lumberjack Cave.
Yeah, I mean, with silver arrows and fire rod, I mean, they will make quick work of Aga.
Yep, although Jigheart's saying he expects the mirror to be the next item, which if they find the mirror at Ledge or Zora, means that they can go ahead and check Checkerboard, which has been a fun hidey hole for the Moon Pearl on several occasions.
Very true, and I don't know, we may even, if that happens... Oh, never mind, there's the Moon Pearl.
Aghanim is not required, so the entirety of the Dark World is now open to 7 whenever he collects the Moon Pearl, and to Mikan whenever he makes his way there.
You are absolutely correct. Now, while they don't have the hammer to get to the east side, they do have the flippers, which is something that if you're a newer player, it can be easy to overlook that in the northeastern side of the map, in the Dark World, you can get to the southern side by using the flippers.
Yep, 7 picks up his Moon Pearl as Mikan saved and quit after finding the flippers. And I imagine Mikan does not have many locations left outside of what 7 just did. So will be looks like he's opting to walk, even though he has activated his flute. Aghanim's cave was the flippers. So in 7, rather than checking the Mire area, he is heading straight to Kakariko to head to the Village of Outcasts.
And he's gonna go up into Skull Woods. Just as you were saying earlier, it's just been so prevalent in V26. And truth be told, he can finish it if he wants.
Yeah, it is a green pendant. It's not too terrible. Mothula, depending on who you talk to, is one of the worst bosses. Mostly due to the whole spike mechanic being broken with it taking damage. But that 40-something% chance for progress an item, even if it's only a sword, it's still a big deal. Oh, there's item 1. Rounds off another container.
Yep, so he didn't get a key in the first 2 chests, so he has to go into the southern room that will be guaranteed a small key. Otherwise, you could find yourself soft-locked in this dungeon.
Yep. As you just said, that room is indeed guaranteed to be a small key, and it's about a 50-50 shot whether you got to go through it or not wherever you drop down. And there's the big key. Let's see if he tries the bomb jump in this next room. Some people opt to take the slightly longer way around, others opt to do the bomb jump. Yeah, King JNF, some people choose to go ahead and try Mothula with, 7, 8 hearts, 8 in 7's case. The blue tunic does make it a little bit better, but obstacle damage like spikes is 1 heart per hit always, and Moth is a real pain. But SevenS1ns is opting out, having found that second item. We have Mikan with the map check here. We have Thieves Town Swamp were the other 2 pendants. So an interesting selection. Given that Thieves has 4 items and Swamp has 6, and Thieves is another dungeon that sometimes pays out even only checking the front 4. So be curious to see how they route them, and Mikan went straight for the Mire area.
Right. Thieves Town being so accessible, as soon as you can get to the Dark World, you can get into Thieves Town and do every single chest except for the big chest, which you need the hammer for.
Yep.
So it oftentimes has some items in it.
Yep, and Mikan pulled a nice upgrade to his sword out of that Mire shed, so while there's only 2 items there, SevenS1ns will find it eventually, unless he somehow enters go mode before heading that way. So now we only have 1 sword upgrade missing. Are all swords accounted for? I haven't seen the 4th. Was it Bumper Cave, Jason? Bumper Cave, okay. So all swords are accounted for then. Bumper Cave holds the 4th. Should they find the cape, and find themselves in the area again, it may be worth it, it may not be. We'll have to see. Mikan is doing the Skullwoods check as well. Unfortunately, won't find too much, except maybe a little bit of health. And Quake out of Thieves Town already. 2 or 3 medallions. So, with both Mire and Turtle Rock being crystals, definitely going to want those medallions before heading there if possible. Because if you can open it up while you're already in the area, might as well.
However, I have a feeling that, knowing chat, they want both of them to be ether and it to be on the pedestal.
Yep. You want to keep that pedestal dream alive, huh?
Not if you're running, but if you're watching, absolutely.
Yep. And as Kalfa points out, Mikan did stray just enough to see what that medallion for Mire was, which is Quake, which means that dip into Thieves Town is required to open up Mire. They still don't have access to be able to clear it because they need the hookshot or the boots. But they're pretty close to being able to just wipe out Mire entirely. So Mikan's heading up for his Bumper Cave check. Butter.
Yeah, Misery Mire is one of those dungeons that, until this logic, usually came towards the end of seeds. It didn't have a lot of value, even though it really doesn't have a lot of requirements to get into. But more and more finding big items in Misery Mire.
Oh yeah, and it's still a dungeon that a lot of people hate, because the worst feeling ever is going into Mire with the fighter sword, some bombs, no bow. But Vitreous is definitely a challenge to tackle if you don't have those silvers. Or a tempered, at least. And there's the cape in Thieves Town. So, looks like SevenS1ns is opting to clear it, and if he chooses to, he will be roundabout rewarded with Buttersword. Tunics are not currently accounted for. There was only one tunic surprise, and it was the Old Man. We have not seen the red yet. And again, we have a bit more of an instance where Mikan is once more following in 7 steps, except this time Mikan has the check advantage again of having done the Mire Shed. So, what are your thoughts on this, Cobb? You think we'll end up with a Jet Seed at the rate things are going here?
Well, I find it pretty interesting because that red sword, while SevenS1ns is going to have no trouble doing any of these dungeons with the Master Sword, it makes it a lot faster. And, you know, he has a lot of options open to him right now. So he might check Mire very quickly, but he may not. So we'll see if that makes a difference.
Yeah, I mean, he's aware of the fact, he has the cape now that he's done Thieves Town. He's relatively close to Bumper Cave. He could opt to go pick up that next sword if he would like to. But he's also eventually going to find his way to that Mire Shed, I'm almost certain. And Thieves Town had Quake, Ether, and the cape. It doesn't matter what Turtle Rock is now.
And that's a great thing on the runner's mind right there, when they have all 3 medallions, because sometimes you don't get to Darkworld Death Mountain for quite a while, and not knowing what it is, you may be unsure if you're in go mode or not.
Yep, and it looks like SevenS1ns is opting to not go get the sword off of Bumper Cave. He may come back, he may not. He is fully capable of doing the game with the Master Sword. However, he will find Tempered in the Mire Shed at the very least. And here we have SevenS1ns doing the digging game. To the pole rock here to quickly get out, since no boots, bit slower. But
he kept that digging plot very, very clean.
Yep, that he did. And I'm just taking a quick look here at the required dungeons and the items that they currently have. They've been able to move really quick, and they still need Hammer, Ice Rod, the Hook Shot, and either the mirror or the book. The boots may or may not be required at this point. Still don't know until they're able to gain access to Desert. Yeah, King JNF. A lot of people probably would have gone right back to get that sword out of Bumper Cave, but it looks like SevenS1ns is putting a pin in it for now.
But he'll keep it in the back of his mind if he gets boots and mirror, and he can combine picking up that sword with King's Tomb, Bonk Rocks, Overlook Cave, and I don't think that they've checked Catfish yet.
Nope. SevenS is starting to do a bit of the Dark World exploration as we're seeing him move over to Hype Cave now. But up until he left, they were still in that northern area. Here we have Hype Cave, 10 arrows from the Fox, Blue Rupee, 3 bombs, 5 bomb capacity, and 20 rupees. A whole lot of nothing. And SevenS opting to save and quit instead of jumping into the water towards Pod.
We're really going to have to start thinking about a new name for this Hype Cave. Because in V26, it sure does not seem to be.
Swords are progressive, Talia. Hype Cave in V26, it seems you'll have 1 seed every now and then where you get 2 or 3 items, sometimes 4. But usually it's, you might find a bottle, whole lot of health, or in this case, absolutely nothing. It's just how the logic is now, unfortunately. Oh, Hammer from the Smith. That is a very important item that SevenS just got.
And that actually completely makes sense. I always like when they give like the boots.
Yep, and Mikan did opt to go for that sword, so we have a butter on the left and a master sword on the right. Nice use of the cape to escape the murder birds. And it looks like Mikan's going to head south now at this point. I'm curious to see if he picks up the Smith after doing the digging game or not. Really hope he does to keep things close.
If he does, and he gets this hammer, I think this is going to be an advantage for him because that butter sword's going to just fly through dungeons.
Yep, an interesting play from SevenS here is going right into Ice Palace. He has Fire Rod and Bombos available, but no boots in the Ice Dungeon, which is always fantastic. No hook shot, which means he has to bomb jump the ledge. And the Master Sword... Oh, okay, he's using his medallions to get the kills on these enemies here. Opting for Quake, an instant kill.
That's some really good enemy knowledge that most enemies Quake will not kill. Knowing that Quake will kill these enemies, that's some very high-level knowledge.
Yep, it's... The medallions, Quake is usually more of a fun one in terms of its effects on enemies, rather than killing them. But every enemy is weak to a specific medallion, it seems, which rather than an animation or a transformation taking place, it just kills them outright, instantly. No wait time for fire, with Bombos, etc. And Mikan did not grab the Smith, so unfortunately that is going to hurt him for a bit until he hops back around that direction.
Absolutely. That hammer is one of those premium items that really opens up the world and a whole number of dungeons as well.
Oh yeah, and SevenS shows that it doesn't matter if he's not using the default sprite, he can still do that bomb jump flawlessly. And we're about to get to see it again.
That is the worst feeling in the world that I do way too often.
Yep. And no moving around, just instantly tap on the controller and he's aligned again.
I really like this early Ice Palace play by him. I think more and more as I play this logic, Ice Palace is really paying off lately.
Ice Palace does tend to have one good item in it most seeds, yes. And another interesting fact, with SevenS coming here so early, that was a perfect room right there with the sword slashes across the ice. But with him coming in this early, he's showing that it doesn't scare him at all. It doesn't matter. Master Sword, Fire Rod, Balmos, okay, we'll go to Ice. Usually a dungeon people also like to put off.
Oh, absolutely. In the low percent NMG runs, Master Sword Ice Palace is one of the things that gets a lot of runners, so kudos to him.
Yep. And I'll be honest with you, whenever I come into Ice Palace personally, if I don't have the Fire Rod, tempered, blue or red tunic with some health, I still very much hate Cold Stare. It is definitely a tricky boss to do. Okay, we have SevenS1ns making his way here. Curious to see how he... That's right. How he makes his way back up to check the... 3? Yeah, it's 3 items that he has walked past at the moment. Yeah, Mikan is still doing some overworld clearing. Catfish came up relatively dry. Fish out of water. With the bombs out, I'm assuming he's going to bomb jump back across and utilize his small key that he picked up down below in order to get to the items that he bypassed earlier.
Looks like that's what he's lining up.
Yep, perfect bomb jump, heading back up. You'll probably just hook a sharp right. See what those last items are. Okay, we're getting a pyramid check here from Mikan now. Without the hammer, it's actually, and if I were in Mikan's shoes right now, I would have a hard time trying to figure out what I want to do next. That hammer just opens up so much of the world. And an empty bottle in the pyramid.
It sure does, and I worry about him going to pod now. Because he can go to pod, and he can clear all of it, except for the actual boss. And,
yeah, and we just saw the boots from 7 there inside of Ice Palace. So that play worked out.
Sure did. That's a huge find that will help him speed up, even, to compensate for not having the butter sword.
Oh yeah, and every minute that goes by where SevenS1ns is putting those boots to use is a second here, a second there, just being gained over Mikan, unfortunately. But yep.
Absolutely, we've seen runners catch up in bootless seeds because one had boots and the other didn't, even though they were behind.
Yep, having boots, knowing how to utilize them is extremely important, but not having them and knowing how to compensate is also a good skill. Let's see, looking at chat here. Mel says that pod is slow without the mirror and hammer. It is a bit on the slow side, yes. Players frequently utilize death warps. We're looking at Mikan here doing his first check. Gets the small key up front.
So speaking of death warps, I wonder if Mikan is going to start taking some intentional damage to keep his health in a region where he can do death warps easily.
If so, I would probably expect Mikan to start taking hits in that spike hall, maybe a little bit before. Fortunately, the spikes, being environmental objects, will do 1 heart of damage no matter what tunic you have. But without that hammer, it's either that or a very long walk back. Here we go. 7 was doing his best to collect as much magic as possible to, he has Balmos, but you have to remember the Fire Rod, 4 Fire Rod shots will kill one of the puffballs. And with the Master Sword, the more Fire Rod shots you can get coming in, better. Ooh, he's already low. And he only has green magic, so he's going to have to be real careful here. I believe the falling ice with blue tunic will kill you in one hit. It does 2 hearts of damage here. He's blowing all this magic. Ooh, bit close there. And he avoids the last ice. 7 hits through Ice Palace.
Good for him. I was nervous the entire time watching that. I can't imagine how he was feeling.
Oh yeah, and he was throwing out those fire rod shots, not wasting any time, almost mashing the button it seemed, so he missed quite a few shots.
Yeah, but he sure was aggressive. He was not afraid.
Oh yeah, and Cold Stare, sometimes being aggressive does pay off. Yeah, we see Mikan trying to take a few hits with his blue tunic, but just doesn't do a whole lot against those enemies. And it looks like he's going to use this room instead of the next room with the spikes. So, in about 10 seconds or so, he will Death Warp back to the beginning. Here we have 7 immediately going to put that powder to use off a Cold Stare. If this leads to something, that means whatever item this is also hammerlocked.
You know, in a race, as opposed to just playing casually, I think this is a very smart move. Because, you know, yeah, it's not necessarily a huge payoff, but in a race, if you take 10 seconds to do this and you find something big, oh, that's a huge advantage.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't quite call 20 rupees a big payoff, maybe a moderate one, perhaps a bit small because, I mean, you need 8 of them to get a blue potion. But already he has the boots advantage, and the boots were hammerlocked in Ice Palace, so they were behind the pegs. Yeah, as Chad is saying, 7 is definitely in a good spot from what we've seen and know of this seed so far. Matter of fact, he is heading towards Pod now, which is a smart play. He can clear it all and complete. And it is also one of Crystals 5 and 6, should Desert open up soon and he need that quick item check at Fat Fairy.
Yep, and Ice Rod is not a all too uncommon place to find. The Fat Fairy often has Ice Rod.
My personal favorite, though, is Ice Rod inside a Turtle Rock. Makes you have to decide whether or not to take that gamble of, do I go into a dungeon without being able to complete it?
Oh yeah, double dipping Turtle Rock is absolutely my favorite.
Double dipping? What are you talking about? I love triple dipping Turtle Rock. I'm just saying. Can't get enough of it.
I do not need that negativity in my life.
So Mikan's pod check came up relatively empty. Since he didn't have the hammer, he cannot complete it. Looks like he's heading towards the Dark World again without the hammer. This is his only access point that gives him the ability to move around the Dark World.
Yep, and with the boots, 7 is going to move pretty quickly through this dungeon. There are a lot of long straightaways in this dungeon.
Oh yeah, and this is where knowing how to dash cancel comes into play, because every bonk is about 1.5 to 2 seconds of movement loss, on top of the distance you lose from bonking as well. So it's very nice to see clean dashing, which 7 has shown us extraordinarily well so far. And Mikan, let's hope he goes for that smith. If he does, may be able to keep things a bit on the close side. Yep, Mikan grabs the smith and saves and quits. So Mikan will be a little bit behind, but he's going to find the hammer. He's definitely going to be happy. It's just a question of where he goes next.
Now, if you're Mikan, do you, when you find this hammer, do you think, oh, this was a pretty odd check to do, I don't think Seven has it? Or do you think, oh, Seven got this 10 minutes ago?
If I'm Mikan, I'm thinking I'm behind right now because no mirror, but whenever you're doing that circuit check, you have the flute. Dropping the smith off is a simple matter of, okay, let's do the dig game first, come back for the smith, and then do the check, save and quit, flute, 25 seconds. So finding the hammer at the smith there has probably got to put Mikan under some pressure, I'd say. Blawe, the Swiss tournament format. So to start, you have 100 individuals, and they are randomly paired up. You know, everyone has a 0 and 0. After the first round ends, everyone plays their first match. The second round kicks off. Everyone with a 1 and 0 ranking plays another person with a 1 and 0 ranking. Everyone with an 0 and 1 plays an 0 and 1, and it progresses each round where 1 and 1 plays 1 and 1, or 2 and 1 plays 2 and 1. And that's Swiss. In this case, everyone with 4 and 0 is guaranteed to progress, while those who are 3 and 3 at the end of the 6 rounds are all playing in one massive race for a few spots.
Yep, I believe, and do not quote me on this, that it's 6 spots.
For the 3 and 3, I think it's only 4. I'd have to check the tournament details. There's not all that many. There is still a chance, but the Swiss format is basically designed that even if your top players go up against each other, they will generally be guaranteed to proceed. Jigheart confirms that it is 6 people that are 3 and 3, and that race will proceed to the group format. And Mikan did head right back to Pod to finish off the dungeon, while SevenS1ns is heading to Helmasaur as well. So at this point in time, SevenS1ns pretty much has a 1 dungeon lead of Ice Palace, with the boots and powder over Mikan. And yes, SevenS1ns did indeed forget a key. He's sitting on 0 small keys right now, and he has not realized it, so that will buy Mikan a little bit more time. Yep, Mikan has a small key. So buy Mikan a minute and a half or so, depending on where that chest is SevenS1ns missed. He walked back the chest. Okay. Yep. A lot of people will forget that one chest that is on the right side behind the bomb spot. And SevenS1ns is about to realize, oh boy, and he has no mirror. And looks like he's going to opt to backtrack instead of trying the lengthy process of death warping. So, good news for Mikan. Give him a little bit more over SevenS1ns. Not enough, but every little bit helps. Meanwhile, a very clean helmet fight with Butter Sword. There's no point even pulling out the silvers. 2 hits and it's done. Actually, no, it's not even that chest there.
I believe it's the drop-down chest right here, or did he get that one?
I did not see if he got the drop down. We're about to find out. I imagine he's going there first. No, he got the drop down. Seeing with how he does not have any keys, it has to be either the room with the 4 turtles in it or the drop down area in the dark. It cannot be any other location because the way the dungeons are designed, you cannot key lock yourself. The U-shaped room in the dark is. No, the room with the 3 spikes is key locked. So unless he went up against the door and simply did not go in, he does not have access. The chest south of the room with the 4 turtles is key locked, though. You would have to use a key to get a key. Oh, he did open the door, he just didn't go in. Okay. So that's what happened then.
Yep, so... Oh, so the only way that SevenS1ns is going to be able to get by that is either to use a medallion to kill those guys because they are on a different level. Or he can walk through the south door and then come back.
Yep, I'm kind of curious why he isn't just walking through the door. It is very quick. And with Master Sword, that is... No, he is pretty much about the Death Warp at this point. Or he's gone for the health there. Oh, there's the Book and Peg Cave. That gives Mikan desert access.
Now he's just got to go to Ice Palace to get the boots. Maybe. Maybe they're not required for a desert.
Mikan did skip the purple chest, though, and it was right there, and he has the flute. I would consider that a mistake on Mikan's part personally, but chances are there's not going to be an important item in there. And he fluted there as if you thought he'd grabbed the chest and realized he didn't. Okay, so there's his small key. As the chat had mentioned, he had to open the door. So this has bought Mikan about 2.5 minutes, I think. Actually, a little bit more than 2.5 minutes. But definitely a nice bit of reprieve from the not finding that hammer right away.
Absolutely. You know, what Seven really needs to do right now is just have a very short-term memory, forget about that nonsense, and just move on, do what he was doing before.
Unfortunately for Mikan, Desert is not boot locked. So while Mikan is still losing time not having the boots to Seven having them, they are not required. So Mikan gets the big key straight away. Curious to see if he will head to Lanmolis first and then come back for any items he may be missing, or if he'll take that small key over. Silverfire boots were inside of Ice Palace. Very true, Ursula. The torch inside of Ganon's tower. 1 in 22 chance of it having the big key. But Mikan should find the boots during his eventual visit to Ice when the time comes. So we see what looks to be a pretty clean fight so far from Seven. Pulls out the silvers. Yep, cleans it up.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, there wasn't anything else in Ice Palace. So if he goes in there in go mode, he may never find those boots.
Very true. The only other item of potential note was the powder, but that dropped off of my mind, Cold Stare. So there's nothing hiding away, or so conceivably he could go in there in go mode. It would be heartbreaking were that to happen, but the chances are extremely slim. And we're now approaching the hour mark, and there's still a fair bit of game left to play and a few items left to find. So both players so far have had pretty solid execution. Mikan, despite, the hammer being delayed a little bit, is up to butter. That Mire Shed check, plus going back for Bumper Cave there, definitely made things a little bit quicker. Actually, Cooper, the mirror is not required since the book is inside a Peg Cave. So it's just the hook shot and the ice rod required. The mirror would actually be more of a detriment to them at this point, simply due to the fact that it opens up more item locations to be checked, which if they do not have an item there, it's like, is Swamp Palace is a pendant this time around. Yeah.
It's interesting that we are this close to go mode and we have not seen almost any of Death Mountain, which by quick math, I believe has 15 items, not including Turtle Rock, that they could access as soon as they can get up there, but they need the mirror or the hookshot to do so.
Yep, an hour in, and East Death Mountain is just not accessible. It's actually somewhat funny, because usually Death Mountain is where you'll find your half magic. You'll find an item or two, maybe. My personal favorite was one of the races in a secondary match where 3 swords were found inside of the Moldorn Cave in Light World Death Mountain.
Oh, I remember that. That was pretty funny.
So we have 7. Now he'll be getting his Tempered here. He'll be happy for that. He's done very well with the Master. But Tempered is just so much better when walking around the Dark World. And with Boots, he also has access to Mire, so I imagine we'll be seeing him going right on in. Mikan is already doing the Fat Fairy check now that he did Desert. Curious to see what's inside of Fat Fairy today. Mike 1780, Tempered, and Butter. The first 2 swords were in Kakariko, the third one was in Mire Shed, and the fourth one was Bumper Cave.
I always like seeing Butter in V26 seeds because before we had the progressive logic, you would see Butter in most seeds, and now it's pretty rare to find Butter.
Oh yeah, I know there are still a few holdouts as far as progressive items like the randomness, but it definitely is one of those fun points whenever you have all your items, but you still only have a fighter sword, so you have to gamble. Where's that next sword? Yeah, I don't expect Jason. I don't expect 7 to go back for Butter at this point. He'll probably just finish out the game on Tempered. Yep, and unfortunately Fat Fairy came up. A whole lot of nothing. Oh. Big key right there, and yeah, he's making the play straight to Vitreous to start.
Now, I was watching Mikan. Did he get 2 items, or is he going to gamble on one being on Vitreous?
The SevenS1ns did not pull an item out yet that I saw. Matter of fact, he even exhausted his small keys. So if he goes back inside, in order to get a key, he will have to go all the way to Backmire. But I imagine 7 will make real quick, clean work of this basement, while Mikan will be happy to find his boots here shortly. Oh. Fun fact, 7/Sins had not hit the switch, so he had to hit it again after he hit there. It's a common mistake I've seen quite a few people make, myself included.
Now, I imagine that with the game knowledge that 7/Sins has already shown us, he knows exactly where that key is. However, someone that picked up this randomizer and just did randomizer and has not done NMG may not know where that key is.
Oh yeah, and Mire's an interesting dungeon because it has so many keys in it, and you really don't need to use all but 1 or 2, I think it is 2 at most, maybe 3. But it has 5? My math might be a little bit off. But it's one of those dungeons where, unless... Oh, an item off of Vitreous. Fire Shield.
Now, I wonder if he takes the time to go back in, because that small key is quite a bit out of his way.
Oh yeah, that small key is buried nicely. Mikan's having a bit of trouble with the old man sprite with the bomb jump in Ice Palace. So hopefully he gets it here on this try or the next before his health runs too low. There we go, he got it. Yep, and Seven is heading back in because you cannot afford to leave an item inside of a dungeon.
You know, there's many ways to learn those bomb jumps, but with the addition of these new sprites, the only thing that is common between all of them is your character's shadow. I had to relearn all of my bomb jumps because I was using the top of Link's head.
Yep, and that's why I have yet to change my sprite from the standard Link, because I have learned all of my jumps from either, the feet or the head, and yeah. Despite having so many wonderful sprites that the community has made, I like to be boring. Let's see here. SevenS1ns is making his way through the rest. I'm curious how far left he goes, if he will go through the cutscene first or risk on everything else first. Mike1780 says bomb jumping his chest. Yes, the chest is quite hilarious, both to bomb jump with and whenever you get an item. Nope, SevenS1ns still hasn't found his second item yet. So, and it looks like Mikan's pretty much... He has Desert done, fortunately. Ooh, ice physics without boots is rough. Okay.
I'm about as good at ice skating in real life as I am in this game, which is not great.
Yep, I nearly broke a few bones the last time I tried it. The only time I tried it, really. But ice physics is
definitely pain. Are you talking about in Zelda or in real life?
In real life. Here we have a long cutscene that seems even longer because you cannot see the wall moving. And he should have saved it for last. So, still have the hookshot outstanding. Still have the ice rod outstanding. And other than that, these two runners are pretty much set because Mikan's going to find his boots once he finishes up here. And yeah.
I really love that they both did that bomb jump because it is not... Oh!
Ice rod is in mire.
That's huge. But yeah, that's an obscure bomb jump that I've never used. And it's just a good piece of game knowledge that these runners have.
Yeah. It's one of the trickier ones to set up, I think, and there's Mikan finding his boots. But some of the trickier bomb jumps are really useful. Yep. Oh, SevenS1ns. Hook shot. Go. Nope, not yet. He still needs to find the book in Peg Cave. But SevenS1ns is now one item away from go mode. Wow. I almost spoke that a bit too early, though. The book is inside of Peg Cave. And Hookshot SevenS1ns is going to be lured into checking Death Mountain.
Now, this actually could pay off for him if he finds the mirror. If he finds the mirror, then he doesn't need the book.
Very true. And the chances of that, I'd say, are still somewhat pretty solid. Although, sometimes, the seed may want to troll and you may see the mirror inside, say, Ganon's tower. But, we now know where everything required for go mode is, though. Curious to see where Mikan heads next, because he just needs the hook shot out of the tomb there. Or the bonk rocks, excuse me. And SevenS1ns finds the mirror shield inside of the bottom there.
he also needs to make the decision to go into Mire
Yeah.
for the Ice Rod.
Con dropping a bomb, I suppose. Never works. Or sins, my bad. This way through. Bugnet, some health, and a red rank.
Finding a whole lot of items, none of which he needs.
Yep. But honestly, a little bit of health probably wouldn't matter too much to these runners as far as, finding stuff. So they'd probably be happy if they could get up to 11, 12, 13 containers.
Perfect cold stare by Mikan that you can pull off if you have the tempered or the butter. SevenS1ns wasn't able to because he had the master and you really can't keep them in the corner long enough.
Oh yeah, that quick kill was gorgeous. And SevenS1ns is not going into Hera first. Might be checking the floating island. No. I'm not exactly sure what SevenS1ns is doing. He does not have the mirror. So if he goes into Dark World and he does not find it, he will have to save and quit in order to do Hera.
The only thing I can think is that he may think he's really far behind and wants to maximize his item numbers that he can get.
He's going into Turtle Rock right now, I think. No? Actually, he may do hook shot, check the cave to the right, and then head into T-Rock. But,
right, yeah.
If he doesn't find the mirror, the longer he's able to do dungeons, because Mikan just found his hook shot. So Mikan literally just needs to go into Mire, and he's in go mode as well now. So 1 item away for each of them. Yeah, T-Rock has 5 items inside. Red tunic inside a hookshot cave. But depending on how events go and the items found, Seven may end up doing more than Mikan. Although Mikan is falling into the same trap of, I have the hookshot, I have Death Mountain access, let's go. But the gap between them has closed a fair bit, I'd have to say, at this point.
It sure has, and it can always all turn around with that one item.
Yep. Especially if Mikan decides to go into Hera first and clears it and then does his Dark World check. That could give him a slight edge because that travel time alone without having the mirror up to Hera is somewhat consuming. And if Mikan is really careful in his Mire check, he could find that Ice Rod a lot quicker. Some people like to go into that room with the switch behind the locked door, hit it, and immediately go right instead of doing any of the torches. So, very true, Cruel. T-Rock is a quick dungeon. Whether you're in go mode or you're full clearing, there's not too much of a time difference between them.
Some really cool NMG strats by SevenS1ns with the hook shot to cancel any damage by these rolling spikes.
Oh yeah. This and on the moving platforms is where I see it used the most in terms of canceling damage. It's a very nifty mechanic that can save your rear in a tight spot at times. And Arius, yes, SevenS1ns needs either the book, which is in Peg Cave, or the mirror, which we have not seen yet, in order to be in go mode, whereas Mikan needs to find the Ice Rod, which is inside of Mire, south of the Spike Room. Yep, if Seven finds the mirror, he'll be in very good positioning. If he does not find the mirror, then he may give Mikan a chance to catch up because Mikan is most likely going to do straight dungeon diving, since he can do everything but Turtle Rock at this point. If Mikan makes a T-Rock gamble, though, that could be somewhat disastrous.
Oh yeah, nothing worse than that feeling of opening that last item on the laser bridge, and it is not the ice rod.
Oh yeah. But we're seeing SevenS1ns pulls out the powder. I love it whenever you catch them real early, you're able to snag all 4 with 1 sprinkle. Complete overkill, but it's great to see. And so far, really haven't seen too much of value out of Hera on Mikan's side, but it is a crystal, so it is required. But the basement may be required as well, though.
You know, I think it's very important for this mirror to be somewhere pretty accessible to SevenS1ns, because if I remember correctly, he's done just about everything over in the Village of Outcasts, Kakariko area, other than those pegs.
He has not done the purple chest yet, I believe. That is still outstanding.
Okay, so that may lead him back, those 2 items together.
Yep, after Turtle Rock, since he skipped Hera, I'm still not exactly sure why. He may opt to head to Hera next. But after that, there's not a whole lot left because the mirror has kept some item checks blocked. So the purple chest may be next, and whenever he's there, Peg Cave. But
right, but without the mirror, he is going to have to save and quit. And then go all the way around East Death Mountain, up and left to get to Hera.
Seven just hurt himself real bad there. He used up the last of his magic in the room right before the dark room. Okay, but he did get his magic from that there. And Mikan is heading to the basement for the last item inside of Hera. If the mirror is here, that would be unfortunate for Seven. Nope, just 20 rupees. So Mikan is done with Light World Death Mountain at this point. And we get to see Laser Bridge next. I think Laser Bridge is like a top 3 most fun location, no matter what your skill level is.
I detect some sarcasm there, because I hate me some Laser Bridge.
Just a little bit of sarcasm. Although he has the mirror shield, so it's... well, it's child's play if you don't get hit in the back. Matter of fact, Mikan...
the mirror... oh, we have a go mode with the mirror.
Wow. Well, SevenS1ns got very lucky. I imagine he'll be heading straight to Desert after this, and then do Hera into Ganon's Tower. So 1 hour, 18 minutes, 30 seconds in, SevenS1ns is in go mode, whereas Mikan still needs the Ice Rod out of Mire. That is an interesting situation. I want to make a note if he decides to do an interview of how he felt about having 2 items for his go mode instead of needing 1. Well, an either or, I should say. That is very fortunate for Seven. Ooh, he's got to be careful.
Mikan really, his next move after checking these items needs to...
Seven is toast. He
and he did not take the bridge safety.
Nope. He is all the way back to, I believe, the big chest.
Yeah, I believe he exited the dungeon there.
That is very unfortunate, and I'm sure Seven's going to be kicking himself in the rear as he continues on. Oh, yeah, he's definitely still winning, but this isn't as big of a mistake as his forgetting a small key instead of pod, but every little mistake adds pressure on you as a runner where you're not certain of, did you just put yourself behind or not?
You know, and this is what I love about running randomizer rather than normal speed runs. At this point in a normal speed run, game's over. You know, can't PB, can't win. But in randomizer, everybody makes mistakes, makes different choices.
Oh yeah. Definitely. It helps level some of the skill between the luck and the particular routing for that seed. But luckily for SevenS, it's not going to hit him too hard. Mikan's even going to Spike Cave at this point. Given the dungeon's accessible, Mikan's next play should... Mikan's going to die in here. Oh, no. Pulling out the magic to save himself. That was... Otherwise, that would have been really bad. Okay.
Yeah, I'm actually curious about it because he needed to pick up that spike with 1.5 hearts, or that block with 1.5 hearts, and then he could have made it.
Yep. The act of picking up that block will cost you 2 hearts. You are invincible while holding it, but once you throw it, you immediately take another heart because that timer between damage hits is expired. Here we have Trinex going down pretty quick. I'm almost expecting Seven to head straight to Desert with that mirror, and then come back and do Hera after GT. Or before GT, on his way up.
Yep, I think I would agree with that play.
Yep, and here we have Mikan, who is now going to mine. He'll be happy to find that Ice Rod and head into go mode himself. It may take him a few minutes, depending on whether he goes to Vitreous first. So this has definitely been a very good race. I'd say it's relatively close. Maybe not, nail-bitingly so. But both players have shown excellent execution, skill, and knowledge of the game. As to be expected.
Absolutely. I've learned some things from these. That little piece of information with the Quake in Ice Palace. I was not aware of that.
Yeah, that's definitely a fun little thing. You generally don't use medallion too often, but...
Right, and they had all 3. I mean, my go-to would have been Bombos, but he gave us a little peek at something that we didn't all know about, or at least I didn't.
Oh, yeah. We have Arius in chat asking, why would someone do no Ice Rod T-Rock for Meyer? Sometimes Turtle Rock has been known, in this logic and more so in past ones, to frequently hold the Ice Rod. If they were missing more than one item, they might have gambled since they were already there, the travel time. But since it's just the one item, it is a smarter play to head to Meyer first, even without the knowledge of, hey, the last item's there. What I'm curious about is what Mikan does after this room right here. Mikan heads right. May find the Ice Rod sooner than later. Nope, Mikan's going to head left first, after checking that one item. This unfortunately won't save any time, as Seven will make short work of Land Molus. Surprised he didn't pull out the silvers. He has 27 Heras, a healthy amount. We just took that Land Molus out that hadn't been touched yet with 4 slashes on one little cycle there.
Yep, I think he's done this fight once or twice.
Yeah, Scooper, it is a slight time save. But we'll have to see how he stands coming out of it. It does look like Seven's going to have probably a 5-minute advantage at the rate things are going, since T-Rock is a little bit on the lengthier side. And Hera is real quick, just straight up.
Now, I'm not sure why Seven is heading this way with the mirror.
I'm not positive. Oh, probably because he needs that Dark World access anyway. This way he can properly chain it. Otherwise, he would have to go right all the way to Turtle Rock after doing Hera.
Absolutely, yep.
So we're probably about to see the fun little block clip with these two here. Yep, you push the first block, it becomes a solid object. You push the second, it becomes transparent. You hook right through it.
Yep, you just got to make sure that when you line up, you are not all the way up against the right wall. And as soon as you hit that hook shot, you push right on the direction stick.
Oh yeah, that was a fun 15 minutes spent loading save states, making sure I could get that right.
Did a lot faster than I did.
Okay. And here we see probably drop the mirror almost right in front of the stairs. Yep. Close enough. Laser room, yes, Mal. Laser bridge had a small key. It was the third chest down that had the key. Silver, normally it's a little bit quicker to access Hera by going north using the mirror, but because he's going straight into Ganon's tower after Hera, it was quicker overall for him to go to the right side, get into the Dark World. It's also part of why earlier, whenever I found the mirror, I figured he would go to Desert first and then come to Hera. But here we see Mikan heading into Vitreous here, as Seven is just 2 rooms away from his last boss himself. And hopefully Moldorm is not Trolldorm.
Correct. However, all he's going to need to do is a spin and then any hit on Moldorm to take him down.
Yep, spin and a slash. And unfortunately for Mikan, Turtle Rock is lengthy since you do have quite a few rooms to check, plus Laser Bridge will be required. The Tempered Sword versus Butter Sword for ascending Ganon's tower isn't really all that big of a deal, and Tempered versus Butter is at most 1 additional second cycle and 1 additional first cycle on Ganon. So it really depends on Ganon's pattern, how much time Butter can save, but at this point, it's not enough on its own. Where are you headed, Mikan? I guess you're taking the Light World way up. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, 22 potential item locations inside of Ganon's tower for the big key, 1 through 22, or your favorite location, such as the tile room. Feel free to put it in chat, and we'll keep count. See where it ends up being. There's a small key, bomb capacity, and he is doing, I believe it's called the Dark Magician play from the last tournament named as such. Heading to the right side for the quick 4 items in the compass room. We have 2 people saying tile room already. That is my personal favorite. It's come up a few times in the tourney. It's always amusing to see.
Now, it'll be interesting whether Mikan approaches the bridge, the laser bridge, from the top or the bottom. If he goes from the bottom, he may not find the mirror.
The mirror was the very bottom chest.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was the very top. Okay.
Yeah.
If he doesn't find that mirror and the big key is on in like the randomizer room, he's going to either have to death warp or keep going just to get back to the beginning.
Yep, very true. Without a mirror, getting out of Ganon's tower is a fun little adventure. So there is item number 7. So
Rip
far,
Bob
still no
2017.
key.
I said Rip Bob 2017 services will be on Saturday.
Oh, mirror was very top. Oh, big key is chest number 9. So 7 wastes no time in heading up. He has more than 2 small keys, so he won't have to even stop to kill the Helmosaur for one. So it's just a straight climb up for him at this point.
Oh, I'm sure he double-checked that he had those keys after pod.
Seven having just a little bit of difficulty getting the MX lined up. Finally gets it going. And with Mirror Shield, there we go. Nice and quick and fast. Mikan realizing if you throw a block in the middle, it hits both switches. So both of these runners will come out with a very respectable time. It does look like approximately 5 minutes or so that Seven has over Mikan.
Oh, yeah. I mean, in the first tournament, you know, with the way the logic was, items came a lot sooner, and your good times were sub 130. Here, any sub 145, 150 is a great run.
Oh yeah, I'm always happy just to get below 2 hours on most of the way the seeds are generated. It's, I would not call it all that friendly for people who are newer to Randomizer. But it is truly more random, besides the dungeons carrying a bit of the heavier weight. 7, pretty clean gauntlet there. Got a little bit of troll from the Skelly room, but not much. And 1, 2, and he missed the third, and he recovered 1 cycle land molds.
That's always really fun to see with those arrows, because they make it look easy, but it is not.
Yep, Mikan got trolled by the bomb there, a T-Rock. If you do not move north in that room a little bit, there's a chance the bomb bounces too far off the wall. Yeah, Radagast. The hitting both switches with the single cane block is something that runners will do, but whenever you throw the block in the middle, it doesn't quite buy you enough time to get into the bricks and get that invincibility. So, 7 now is only a few rooms away from Agata 2.
I always like it when they kick that block up there and explode it right at the right time.
Oh yeah. It's very satisfying watching a Kanesamari block being bashed into. It almost looks like we could see Mikan entering Trinex as 7 enters Aghanim. So, well, knocked off by Trolldorm. There's the mirror. And Mikan's putting that mirror shield to use on his way out as well. Gets the key, and it's already out. Mike, no spoiler logs are generated with these seeds, so we have no idea where Half Magic is or was. And we probably won't see it since that's the last check from SevenS. And I doubt Mikan will be checking anything extra as well. Fun fact, Trinex heads are only 3 slashes each with butter. So does he get the 0 cycle Trinex? Not quite. Bit too slow. Aga, nope. Both balls unfortunately whiffed on that one. He's getting some interesting patterns, and by interesting, not very conductive to numerous hits. Here's one a little bit nicer. 2.
Yeah, but I think he is playing some of these smart. Rather than trying to get 2 on a really difficult pattern and missing all of them, he's making sure he gets 1.
Yep, and he still threw relatively quick with Aga too. It's very easy to tilt on this boss, where you try to get, 2 of them lined up on a difficult pattern, or even 3 if you're really, being aggressive, and instead you get hit and end up with none.
Any guesses on what Ganon's going to say here?
How about the gastropod one? That's always kind of weird to see.
I'm a little hungry myself, so I'm going to root for a spicy barbacoa burrito, which
Nope.
is not.
Just the Impa mark on the hand. Kind of a boring one, but hey. Interesting fact, all of the text boxes that are still in the randomizer, while the text has been changed, it's still the same amount of scrolls as the vanilla game. So Ganon in vanilla, you have 3 boxes. In the randomizer, every single text is 3 boxes. And 7 is making very short work here.
Yeah, and I think he was 1 swipe short of 1 phasing the second phase.
Yep, so long as he's pulling out the cape, make sure the bats don't hit him. And pretty much at this point, 7 should have this one in the bag with silvers at his fingertips. So we have Mikan heading right side as well because it's a small key. So
now it'll be interesting if after he gets those chests, if he continues on to Armos or mirrors back.
Nah, he'll mirror. There's no reason not to once you get the big key.
Oh, I'm sorry. For whatever reason, I thought it was on the left side.
Nope. Tried doing a triple, wasn't quite possible. And there we have from SevenS1ns, the last silver inside a game. Sub 140 time, very great for the seed. Great playing, had a few errors, but overall, really good job.
And SevenS1ns' official SRL time is 1 hour, 37 minutes, and 55 seconds.
Excellent.
And apparently Randomizer thinks we're playing Mega Man.
Gotcha. Is he going to be joining us for an interview?
I am asking him now.
There we go. Mikan finds his big key, and he starts his ascent up Ganon's tower.
Yep, I think he's just setting up his mic, and he'll be joining us shortly.
Excellent. Yep, there he is in the lobby.
Congrats, 7.
Hello, can you
great run.
hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Ah, perfect. Thank you. I can't believe I won.
So, yeah, it was definitely a very good race. Right now, Mikan is heading up Ganon's tower, about to enter the gauntlet.
Oh, okay.
The two of y'all actually followed each other very closely in terms of item checks and dungeons being accomplished. The very first divergence came whenever you picked up the smith, and he did not.
And
Yeah,
I
I
think
just
that-
I just felt so behind after what happened in Pod. That was soul destroying for me.
Yeah, we figured that that was probably very frustrating for you. I did want to ask, how was it knowing that for Go mode you needed one of 2 items rather than just one?
The book and the mirror both were kind of weird because usually you get those early on, you know, to like check the pedestal or the tablets. But yeah, that was kind of weird. I wasn't actually expecting the mirror. I was expecting to find the book.
the book
Yep.
actually was accessible pretty early on, like in the mid game. It was on the pegs by Blacksmith.
Sorry, I was on what?
The peg cave.
The peg cave.
Are you kidding me?
Nope. It was actually interesting to see because Mikan, he went into Pod, did a check of it. He did Catfish, he did the Pyramid, and then after all of that, he finally made his way back to the Smith and went right back into Pod while you had already done Ice Palace, found the boots, and were in Pod as well. And that's where, you know, you had your slip up there and bought Mikan a little bit of time, but he was still behind.
Yeah,
But
Ice
we
Palace
weren't-
was a huge gamble. I went in there with the Master Sword, no magic potions, and I was like ready for it all to like start falling apart because I'm not the best at fighting Cold Stare without like a fire rod and magic. And then I
fooled me.
forgot. I forgot like I couldn't do the bomb jump over the hook shot ledge, and I was like, uh-oh, oops, this might be a bad move.
Yep,
Personally, I actually think it was that early gamble was the move that kind of
It
solidified
paid
it
off
for you,
hugely.
because beforehand you were behind, and Mikan had, I think, Butter Sword at that point.
I don't
It
know
paid off
if
big time for me, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you had actually fallen behind or not. Like I said, until that hammer, both of y'all were pretty neck and neck for locations. He started following behind, especially with that Ice Palace gamble. Both of y'all were both going to end up there eventually. But what were you thinking whenever you decided, let's go to Ice Palace, all the potential places we have now that you'd found the hammer?
I'm going to be 100% completely honest with you. It was not a gamble. It was a matter of circumstance. I was going to Pod, and I realized I only had 95 rupees, and I couldn't enter. I couldn't pay Kiki. And I was like, okay, well, other option, Ice Palace, let's go.
Hey, that's very valid. But
I skipped 20 rupees somewhere, and I was like, this is going to come back and bite me, and it did.
Yep. The only other thing that I have to ask or commentate is whenever you hadn't found the book, you found both the hook shot and the ice rod, which gave us the knowledge of where all the required items were, and we realized the mirror or the book was it. We weren't sure if you were going to find the mirror or not, because if you hadn't have found the hook shot when you did, you would have found the book probably in the next location or two you checked.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to have like 2 separate items separating you from Go mode. That is something I had no idea, by the way. I was actually expecting the book to be in GT and the mirror being the only Go mode item. That is really cool, though, in hindsight, yeah.
Yeah, I think we had quite a few people, including ourselves, first time we've seen it, because usually it's that one singular item, there is no substitute. I think this is the only circumstance. Maybe Meyer not even Meyer with Boots and Hookshot, because Hookshot for GT. So I think this is the only circumstance that can exist where you're 1 item away from Go mode, but you have 2 potential items that'll get you there.
It was something. I hope to never have that again in the future, because having to gamble on Turtle Rock like that, I don't like doing that. I mean, I would have cleared it anyway, so I had all the... funny story, my previous 2 seeds today both had Ice Rod on Pendant, and Turtle Rock as it required dungeon, so I was kind of scared in that regard. But yeah, this was pretty cool, though.
Yeah, it worked out really well. There was one more thing I wanted to ask you. You passed over Hera. You were right outside of it, and you did a 180.
Yeah, that's because I figured that the required item that I would need was probably going to be in Turtle Rock because there was a bigger bulk of items there. And I don't know, it was just like a gamble. I was like, I'm going to Hera, but is this the right thing? Because I would have full cleared it. And I figured that Turtle Rock is kind of hard to full clear nowadays in these seeds that I've had. So I kind of gambled on that Turtle Rock would have been a full clear anyway, and Hera could have been go-moded. That's the gamble I made.
Yep, and fortunately it worked out very well for you. Otherwise, we weren't 100% certain how it would have gone. You still ended up with a rather commanding lead over Mikan. Between the hammer and your execution being just a step above theirs, it became clear relatively early that barring, bad break on your end, you probably want to hold the lead.
Okay.
So, congratulations. Very well played. The two of y'all put on an excellent show. Mikan is just finishing up here now.
Thank you. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah. Cobb, do you have the official SRL time for Mikan? Oh, well, we seem to have lost Cobb for the moment.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mikan's official SRL time was 1 hour, 45 minutes, and 52 seconds, which, as we talked about earlier, is a great time. And I believe he's going to be joining us for an interview in just a minute here.
Okay, very excellent, very excellent. Yep, with these seeds, we talked a bit, Seven, about how, version 26 loves to push you close to that 2 hour mark. So, very good time with how this one was laid out. And again, congratulations, and we'll be looking forward to your next match next week, whenever that's scheduled.
Thank you. Yeah, I gotta say though, this is weird because this is the first time I played without a timer. I hid it behind my tracker, so I couldn't see it, and it felt like a 2 hour seed. I don't know. I didn't see any time anywhere, so that's kind of funny that it was still like a pretty fast seed all in all.
Yeah, it's not too terrible a thought. Hiding the timer. I know the early front load of items was almost jaw-dropping, not quite because it wasn't Dark World access right off the bat immediately, but it was definitely a generous seed in terms of early items.
You'll see in chat that there are links to both of these runners' Twitch, and you absolutely should follow them because they just put on one heck of a show for us.
Oh yeah, you have Mikan's Box and SevenS1ns with the I being a 1. Definitely give these two runners a follow. And we're now joined by Mikan. Congratulations on the run. Fortunately, second place, but it was still a very solid run.
Is my mic working?
Yep.
Alright, so if I don't move my head, this will keep working. Hi, thank you. GG, Seven.
GG, man. GG. Well, I just heard from these two commentators that we had a choice between go mode items.
Did we? What was yours?
The mirror.
He actually found the book before the ice rod, so he did not have a choice. You did.
Oh, what was your go mode item? Sorry.
Oh, it was the ice rod in Meyer.
Ah, yeah, that was me.
Okay.
That was me.
Yeah, Mikan, the biggest hit to you keeping neck and neck to Seven, I think, was putting off the Smith check initially. You had the seeming advantage with the book, but Seven had the unique position of needing either the book or the mirror to go into go mode.
That's so funny. Like, I went back there right after I did pod, so I don't feel like it was that big of a waste of time. I mean, it still was, obviously, but it didn't take me that long to find it.
No, I think that was the biggest, I guess, time difference. The two of y'all were following in each other's footsteps back and forth for the first 45 minutes or so.
Nice.
So I'll let Cobb, you got some stuff?
I just, you guys answered a lot of the questions that I had. You guys put on a great race. Mikan, I completely feel you there because I do not like doing the Smith without a mirror.
Well, normally I would have taken the Smith with me while I did like the whole lower Dark World tour and stuff, but I was gonna go into pod anyway, and I know you can't go into pod without the Smith or with the Smith, so I just kind of left it and figured that I would find the hammer before finishing pod, which obviously wasn't the case. So I just went there immediately afterwards.
The dwarves have had too many items for me when I did not have the mirror in the past week, so that's why I personally made that gamble. Honestly, I was like 50-50 between pod as well. I was like, I've seen it there a few times now, but the dwarves, man, they always have something lately. I don't know what it is.
And then as soon as I found the hammer, I went and finished pod, obviously, and then I went back. Since I didn't really have much else I could do except maybe Ice Palace, I went back to the Smiths. I got the hammer. I got the hammer, I did pod, and then I went back and did the Peg Cave, and that's where the book was. So then I could just finish Desert then. Which obviously didn't have anything, I guess.
Yeah, I'd say the rest of the time difference between the two of y'all was probably the fact Seven had the boots for so much longer than you did. Very clean dashing, too, from both of y'all.
I definitely did put off the Ice Palace for quite a while.
I went there on accident. I was gonna go to pod and I was short 15 rupees. I was like, let's go ice. But yeah, it was a good race. Fun seed though. I hate being blocked by the ice rod. So you had that experience, huh?
Yeah, I had done all of Dark World Death Mountain, and then I didn't have the ice rod, so I figured I'd go back to Meyer and check it first before committing to Turtle Rock. So that's when I found it, and then I just cleaned it up, because those were my last two dungeons by the time I found it.
Yep, both of y'all put on an excellent showing. Really good skill, really good execution. Awesome fun bomb jumps from the both of you.
That's the first time I had tried that Ice Palace bomb jump. The second one, not the usual one, but the other one that worked out.
Wait, which one?
The one that leads from the fall to the end. The one that connects that and the freezer room.
The freezer room jump.
Was that above the big chest?
Yes.
You did that for the first time in this run?
Yeah, I did.
I hate saying this, but I did that for the first time in this run as well.
Yo, high five.
High five, man.
That's awesome. And, that one, I think, is 1 or 2 pixel perfect, and neither of you fell. So, good to you guys.
That's not true. I fell the first time. I got it the second time. Because I tried it in reverse, and I messed up, and then I fell, and then I came back and was like, you know what? I'll try it from the other side. And then I got it.
Yeah, I was going to be really sad if I fell, because I was just about to reset the dungeon and go back in there just to find the boots, which I guess would have been worth it in the end, but the whole time I would have been like, oh my gosh, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Okay, well, congratulations to the both of you. Stick around, folks. There is another race coming up literally here in a few minutes of Act the Bacher and Dragon Co. on the same channel. So we'll be handing it off here shortly to Willard and Futon, who are commentating that one, according to the schedule here. Any last comments, remarks, folks?
Nah, thanks for the race, thanks for the commentary, and looking forward to the next race, and good luck in your future races, Mikan.
Yeah, you too. And thank you for the commentators for jumping in last minute. Because we didn't have anyone scheduled for this until 5 minutes after it was supposed to start.
Yeah, I was looking at it, I'm like, I don't have the IRC up. I don't even have the chat up. Don't have the restream. Oh, but we're live. Let's do it. It was a blast, though. Really fun commentating. And thank both of y'all for the good race. Good playing. It was close. Thank you, Cobb, as well. Ladies
Absolutely, it was a pleasure.
Make sure to follow these runners. If you feel like following the commentators in the tracker, please do so. I've been Space Cowboy 2011.
And I am Cobb. And thanks for watching on Speed Gaming 3. I think Willard is going to be taking over in just a second here. So don't go anywhere. We got another great race coming.
Yep, Futon Willard, it is all yours. Have fun. We're signing off.
Good luck to the next runners and commentators. Have fun.